Alright, so Enter the Stars had a video I just watched a little bit ago. Mainly talking about the South Park episode, the Black Friday one. But interesting, it has this guy with the scar over his eye. And in this episode, the reason it's significant is because it came out on the same day as the Paris attacks, just 2 years before. And in this mall, there's a ton of stores that have names with like French names. So just interesting. And then it shows this guy here. Um, but for whatever the reason, this reminded me of the movie Surf Ninjas. And in that movie, the ninja guy who like comes to save the two princes, he also has the same scar over his eye. Uh, and also, there was something to do with something to do with the new James Bond had a guy with a scar on his eye as well. But in that movie, Surf Ninjas, the whole point is the kingdom gets taken over, and the two princes get taken away and hidden until the one turns 16 years old, and then they have to fulfill the prophecy, and they go back to take over their land, whatever it is, Patusan or something like that. So just kind of interesting, considering we have like Prince William and Prince Harry, and I've talked so much about Queen Elizabeth dying and whatnot. I don't know, stuck out to me. Another thing that also stuck out to me was that the main character is Ernie Reyes Jr., or he's one of the main characters. He's also in the movie Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. And I just reminded me that Ninja Turtles actually go to Paris. I remember watching this a while back when I was watching some episodes of Ninja Turtles. And basically the whole point is I checked out the 2 episodes where they go to Paris on the Ninja Turtles. And also, Shredder's face in Ninja Turtles. I know in the first movie, I can't remember if it's his eye. I think it just might be his face. I thought it was something to do with part of his eye. Maybe not. But he has the scar on his face from when Splinter attacked him when they were back in Japan or whatever. But anyway, the 2 episodes where they go to Paris is season 7, episode 1 and episode 2, which is also the 143rd episode and the 144th episode. Very interesting number, a number for an episode number. We've talked about 144 and how it ties into Mark of the Beast and tons of stuff dealing with assassinated political figures and whatnot. So very interesting. Also, it came out on September 18th, 1993, but September 18th is 56 days before the Paris attacks. I talked a lot about the number 56. Paris, France adds up to 56. ISIS 56. Even the Charlie Sheen stuff, Charlie adds up to 56. Ronda Rousey even equals 56, which is all just recent news and whatnot. Osama bin Laden, Saddam Hussein, Rockefeller, Adolf Hitler, they all add up to 56. I mean, what are the odds of that? But anyway, so they're kind of like, they're supposed to be like connecting episodes. Doesn't really make any sense when you watch the 2 episodes. They like act like they never went to the Eiffel Tower in this one. And this one's kind of just a whole new separate episode. But James Avery is even, it says this is the first of 2 episodes where James Avery does the voice of Shredder. Interesting, he's Uncle Phil from The Fresh Prince of Philadelphia. I've talked about that over and over and over. And he was murdered, like 2 years ago, or he died. Who knows? He was also a judge. I still don't know the significance of the judge stuff. It just seems like kind of interesting, like they're almost trying to kill like judges from the Bible or something. Who knows? I could be, it's just a little side theory that I've been working on and seeing how it develops and whatever. But this episode is about blackouts. The whole episode is about blacking out Paris. And I'll show you a little clip here.
What's wrong? You look like you...
Another power failure in Paris. I've got a feeling something big is going on.
Sure, like sunspots.
But Chief, it's draining the electrical power of the entire city. It could be a secret space launch or a UFO invasion.
Would you really care if this was happening in Cleveland?
Gee, if we're scooped on this story, Channel 6 will win the Chump of the Month award.
All right, April, you win. Go to Paris and get that story.
Right, Chief?
But, fly tourist, huh?
So, I mean, whatever, Shredder blacks out France. And so the whole point is to get the power back on, and they're going to take out the whole world, too. That's the whole point of it. And they're rusting everything. I don't know if that's significant or what, but just interesting blackout because we talked about the Hotels.com commercial. This one right here that literally has blackout dates. It has the Eiffel Tower, the 239. It's the 239th year of the United States. Lots of other stuff with this. This number even is the most popular flight into Paris. And the Bataclan attack was even at this time, military time, 2140. Also, somewhat interesting, and I didn't know this before, in this episode, they mention, Shredder says that they're going to take out the City of Lights, or the City of Light, and they mention that like 3 or 4 times in this episode. So I just looked it up, I didn't know. Paris is actually most commonly referred to as the City of Light. So just pretty interesting dealing with blackout and whatnot. I still think there's more to come with this blackout stuff. Also, back to this one eye thing. This episode is called Black Friday even. So who knows, they have the black sales and whatnot all day long. The blackout sales. I mean, who knows? I mean, it is the day after a significant day. And it always seems like they've been trying to do things the day before or the day after a significant day. So I guess we'll see. Not saying anything's going to happen. Just seems interesting. It also seems a little weird considering the Team America, that they had the Paris attack in Team America. We've talked about that a whole bunch recently, whatnot. And then the Everyone Has AIDS and how it ties into Charlie Sheen. But the South Park episode called Black Friday is the 244th episode. I've talked a lot about the number 91 being like an elimination death number. Seems like they've been using it a lot. It even ties into the assassination of every U.S. president that has been assassinated so far. The number 91 and like 149 is surrounded by it. And 244th day of the year is literally September 1st, 9/1. This episode was called Rust Never Sleeps. Just found this interesting. Rust Never Sleeps adds up to 65. Just like Philadelphia, we've talked about Philadelphia a ton of times, especially dealing with the Philadelphia train crash that happened this year at 9:23 p.m. Going 106 miles an hour, the engine number was 601. It all tied back into Pope Francis, who came to the United States on his 923rd day as Pope. The 106 and 923 are the same Gregorian to Julian, October 6th. I mean, he went to the White House at 9:23 on 9:23. But also Turtle Power. That's what the Turtles always use to stop the villain or Shredder or Krang or whatever he is. Turtle Power is 56. Also thought it was somewhat interesting that they mentioned Cleveland. He says, this guy or whatever, he says, would you really care if this was happening in Cleveland? Just seems kind of weird that he would say something like that. And Cleveland just sticks out a lot because, not this guy, but James Garfield, the president who got assassinated, and I talked a lot about, like, he was assassinated on September 19th, which is 919, kind of like the 91s. September 19th in Gematria even adds up to 91. November 19th is when he was born. Novum is even 9, like on the Roman calendar, it was the 9th month. It could even be 919. November 19th, if you write it out as a word, adds up to 91. He's the only president to die at the age of 49, which ties back into Valentine's Day and Lupercalia and whatnot. But he's actually was from Cleveland. It's right here. That's a suburb of Cleveland. He even is buried in Cleveland. Just found that pretty interesting, And then he was also shot at the train station, and then he died days later. It was actually 79 days later, but I guess another thing, he was shot by this guy supposedly. It just seems like a pretty French name. I mean, Charles J. Giteau. Maybe I'm wrong. Just looks like it to me. You know, this guy even shot Garfield then on July 2nd, which is 7/2. And this episode right here, where the power goes out, is even season 7, episode 2. Just found that kind of interesting. Also, with the Philadelphia stuff, once again, I forgot about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And literally, the two main guys who own the bar are Charlie and Dennis. And that just sticks out to me because the Paris attacks were literally in this part of France, St. Denis, or however you pronounce it, northern suburb St. Denis, and then you also had the Charlie Hebdo thing and whatnot, and then Charlie Sheen. Just seems pretty interesting. And I've talked about this show previously, dealing with the death of Roddy Piper, that he was in a couple episodes, and he kept saying the N-word a whole bunch of times and whatnot. And this show, the first episode ever of the show is called The Gang Gets Racist, and it literally came out on Obama's birthday. Even Obama's 44th birthday, very interesting. April 4th adds up to 144 that I talked about before. 444 adds up to 144. Obama is even the 44th president. I mean, even in the movie Surf Ninjas, Leslie Nielsen, the guy from Naked Gun, he's like the bad guy in the movie. And literally, I looked at his movies, and his first movie was he narrated something with about Gettysburg. Just found that pretty interesting. And man, I want to come back and watch some of these episodes. This one is season 4, episode 12, kind of like 4/12, the day that the Civil War began. It's even the 44th episode, and it's the only episode that came out on the same day as the Paris attacks, November 13th. But it's called The Gang Gets Extreme Home Makeover Edition. Just interesting, mentioned assassination of Obama, and they're getting extreme and they're making over. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe a possible foreshadowing. I'd like to watch it before I really mention much more. Even the 65th episode, that's interesting because it's the Mirror of 56, but also Philadelphia adds up to 65, and it's called The Gang Gets a New Member. I mean, interesting. It's also even season 6, episode 8, Barack Obama even adds up to 68. I guess a few other things I just wanted to mention. Like I said, I need to go watch some of the more episodes and whatnot. But it shows like the history of Paris here, and it explains it's referred to the City of Light, both because of its leading role in the Age of Enlightenment, and more literally because Paris was one of the first European cities to adopt gas street lighting. In the 1860s, the boulevards and streets of Paris were illuminated by 56,000 gas lamps. Interesting, the number 56 again. Also in light, I guess, of the Paris thing and the Hotels.com commercial, other than Paris Jackson, the only other famous person I can think of named Paris is Paris Hilton. I mean, literally, it's all about the Hilton hotels. I mean, that's pretty crazy. And of course, Hilton Hotels, founded in 1919. The 91 references I've talked about over and over recently. Also, Conrad Hilton is the founder. I mean, the guy died at the age of 91 even. So, look at the gematria here. So, Paris Hilton is 141, just like Thanksgiving. I've talked about how this number ties into the skull and bones and whatnot. Conrad Hilton, 133. I've talked about this with Pope Francis. That's the day that he became Pope, 13-3 or 313. Even if you do 600, 306, the mark of the beast, it adds up to 133 and 313. Even born on Christmas Day, and go figure, his dad died the same year that he invented Hilton Hotels. Another, happens a lot. And maybe make a whole nother video, but Paris Hilton's full name adds up to the same as